Hi and welcome to this week's GMBN Tech show. We've got loads coming up on the show. The humble Presto Valve, thankfully, gets a bit of a redesign. Bold Cycles are back with hidden tools and more hidden shocks. There's Chris King Dyna plugs. And seeing as we're in my bike cave, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some bike cave bargains, a few ways you can save a bit of cash and still work on your bike at home. Okay, so topic this week then, I want to talk a bit about sustainability in cycling. Mainly because of the fact it's been the COP26 climate change conference, which happened in Glasgow recently here in the UK. And it's just made me think about cycling being a fairly green thing. You know, you're outdoors, you know, you're riding in the woods and, you know, enjoying the fresh air. But of course, they're still bikes, they're still manufactured. So there are elements of our bikes that aren't as green as we probably think. That said, what I want to do is draw on some of the positives of some of the brands. I mean, I'm well aware there's loads of brands doing cool stuff, and that's where I want you to chip in the comments underneath. But I'm just going to draw attention to a few brands that are doing some cool stuff. And stuff I think is important. And granted, we can all be better at doing this. So first off, you know, there's a lot of brands doing environmentally friendly packaging. Now, I'm going to reference Muck Off here because they do biodegradable stuff. And I think this is particularly important with lubricants, greases, and any sort of compounds and things like that. Now, I just think that's a great thing. I'm well aware there's green oils as well, and there's loads of other brands that are doing this. It's just a good thing. Everything should be biodegradable. Why on earth would we want to make something that's a single use that we can't dispose of correctly? So I think it's a really good thing that brands like that are doing it. But there is something that does really kind of get my goat, and that's inner tubes. This isn't just because I hate the things and I love running tubeless. It's because inner tubes are made from butyl rubber, and it's the quantities that they're manufactured in and the usage you get from them. And a lot of people just sling them in a bin when they're done, and you can't really recycle them. Yeah, you could repurpose the rubber into other things. And actually, to be fair, there are brands like Schwalbe who, admirably for them, they will take those inner tubes that are, you know, got snake bites and faulty valves and whatever, and they'll get them fixed up. Essentially, they'll repurpose them as inner tubes again. And I think that's a really good thing. It's making the best of a bad situation, though. It's still not the optimum. I mean, yes, tyres have got rubber and stuff in, but we are still getting a good use out of those things. If we can get rid of inner tubes, things like that, I'm all for it. Anyway, Urge helmets. Now, I saw Urge helmets at, I think it was Eurobike. Now, Urge, we've seen in the bike industry before, and they're making a great comeback. And I think the single best thing about them at the moment, regardless of the fact their helmets are really nice, and we will be looking at them a bit closer soon, is the fact that they're made of 80% recycled materials. And you think what's in a lot of helmets? Polystyrenes, plastics, nylons, things like that. So over 80% recycled materials in them. I think that is absolutely brilliant, and I would love to see that taken on board by many other helmet manufacturers. I'm sure there are others that are doing similar things, but they're really making a point of saying, look, 80% at least of our helmets is from recycled materials. Like, way to go. I think that's really good. And I've actually got to say, there's going to be loads of bike companies that are doing great things. But I wanted to give a little shout out to Trek for being openly transparent about things. Now, I'm well aware that bigger corporations kind of have to be transparent about this sort of thing, but I had a look through the stuff on their site, and the link to it, by the way, is in the description underneath. I'm just going to read out a few things. So they say, we're improving our processes in tandem with our entire supply chain. So that's everyone that they're sourcing every single component and thing from to using their bikes, not just them making the bikes or assembling them. So they want to reduce entire air freight mileage by 75%. by 2024. That's a significant amount. So if you think how enormous Trek are, all the countries in the world, the infrastructure they have, to reduce that by 75%, yeah, that's really, really good, and that is the way to go. We all need to be going that way. And they're also addressing ground shipping. It's a bit more complicated with ground shipping because of distribution units and stuff, but the same thing. They're working on a global consolidated shipping strategy, so that's a great thing. But here's something I particularly like. Their global headquarters use a mixture of 60.6% wind, 33.3% biogas, and 6.1% solar power to power it. That's amazing. The Californian distribution facility is 100% renewably sourced, and the New Jersey facility is making a jump in 2021. By 2023, all Trek-owned facilities globally are going to be entirely powered by renewable energy. That's great. And also the packaging side of things. We all know that bikes come in cardboard boxes mainly, but there's loads of other packaging within there. Nylon wraps on those, plastic sheaths, like all sorts of stuff that really we don't need in there. Like cardboard and stuff can protect the bikes and it can be recycled, which is great. So just for example, they say in 2020, our most popular model, the Marlin, began shipping in new packaging that cut non-recyclable pieces in half, right? So obviously we want it to be all the way, but this is a huge amount when you hear this stat. Just on that bike, we have expanded that process widely across our bike and accessory packaging, starting from that bike, removing 433,600 pounds worth of plastic. Now you think in a single bike box, you know, you're talking about a few grams. So that is an enormous amount of plastic they're just like cutting out. That is great stuff. But what I want to know is what other companies are doing really good things, you know, because there's loads of options out there in the bike industry. I know we all care. So give people some love for what they're doing to be green for the planet, and let us know what you're doing as well in the comments underneath. News time, and the first thing in news is the new Bold Linkin. Now this one really caught me by surprise, I have to say, because of the fact Bold had existed previous to their sort of the collaboration with Scott Bikes. Now both of those companies are Swiss based and they're both incredible in their design. They always have been, the way to do things, but Bold had a very unique thing. And actually, the fit with where Scott are is perfect together. And I just assumed, like a lot of people probably did, the Bold design team probably just went in-house with Scott and they're responsible for Scott Bikes now, like we've seen with that beautiful Spark that Nino Schurter has been racing, of course, with the internal shock in there. So when I saw this come up, I was like, oh my God, they're like still making bikes. And this is the best looking bike they've ever made. In fact, it's one of the best looking bikes I've ever seen. This thing is beautiful. Look at the lines on it. Look how slammed everything is around the suspension area there. You know, the shock is clearly housed down by the bottom bracket. Man, so here's some shots on screen. So you've got two options, 135mm travel and 150mm travel. So trail bike territory here. Got the hidden shock. Now the shock, the suspension configuration is like a VPP, but the cool thing is that lower link is actually a concentric pivot, I guess you'd call it, because it rotates around the bottom bracket shell, which also enables them to put markings on the outside so you can monitor how much travel you're using and set up your sag externally without messing with the shock internally. So that's kind of like a byproduct of the system, but it's really quite cool. Now, on the inside, with the way they've developed their configuration, now this won't surprise any Scott owners, but Scott's always had twin lock and various other systems in place, so the bike changes characteristics with the lockout. It doesn't just put like compression damping on the shock when you pedal, it actually reduces travel or changes the effect of the suspension, and it's exactly the same with this. So, although this one sounds way better. It says there's 3 settings, fully open. Then there's a mid setting, which they call traction mode. And they say the shock is not only firmer, but it has dynamically less travel. So the bike sits up higher, retains its like basically supple travel, but there's less of it, keeps that steep seat angle, so it's much better for climbing and keeping the bike agile basically. So you get all your traction, but keep your position. That's great. So keeping the bottom bracket higher is really the key on a bike like that looks pretty slammed. And they say it's a third mode with full lockout. So it's really cool they're doing this stuff. As I said about the suspension design, it's a virtual pivot style linkage, and one of the linkages will have an arm compressing the shock on the inside. In fact, I'm just going to throw on screen a clip from their Instagram page where you can actually see like on a sort of ghost drawing of the bike working, so you get your head around how that actually works. I think it's a really smart idea. A lot of people will be like, oh, I can't get to the shock to adjust it. How many people actually adjust the shock once you've set it up in the first place? Not convinced a lot of you do. I know I don't. Once I get my optimum setting, it's pretty much done. So I like the idea of hiding it away. I think it's quite cool, and you're using space that's there. You're not creating a space to put a shock in. There's already a whacking great void in the bike there. There is an issue though, from my perspective. You can't fit a piggyback shock in it, or it appears you can't fit a piggyback shock. I couldn't find any literature that says otherwise, but it might be a shame. That said, up to 150mm travel, it's not the end of the world, because they'll probably release a larger travel bike down the line. And they've done this before, and they have had room for a shock with the piggyback on it. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, my Canyon's drive with no piggyback, it was fine in Italy. All right, it was the absolute borderline of what you'd want to do on a bike with that much travel, but yeah, kind of handled it fine. Right, so you can accept a 200mm dropper post, even on a size medium frame, which I think is pretty special. And it's got tool storage in there. So in the down tube, there's like a plate on the bottom that removes, and it's not just putting an Allen key in here. Check this out. So there should be a shot illustrating this. You can fit a tube, a mini pump, tie levers, and a synchro matchbox multi-tool. It sounds like it's all kind of like a supplied kit, and it's in the frame. It's there. So you're never going to forget it. Put your water bottle on, go for a ride. something goes wrong, you've got the gear to get out of danger. Like that's danger, trouble, you know what I mean? I think that's brilliant, really cool idea. Now, interestingly, so this is Bold coming back again. I'm going to speculate here. One of the first comments I saw on their Instagram was from Nino Scherto, who of course rides for Scott, and he did the little love eyes emoji. Could this mean that Scott might be releasing something like this? Could we see, I don't know, a new ransom or something like that perhaps? Who knows? But it's exciting stuff, and I'm really pleased that Bold are still coexisting because they're a really cool brand. What do you think? Do you like the hidden shock thing, or do you think it's a bit gimmicky? It is gimmicky, but I think it's really, really nice. I mean, look at it. Look how nice it looks. Man, what a bike. Okay, next up, the Presto Valve has been reinvented. Now, this is brilliant. Now, before I talk to you about this, I just want to remind you that when I went to the Malverns, 76 Projects showed me their bigger bore valves basically, and I looked at them and I thought, this is genius. So I think it had between 3 and 4 times the airflow in them. Used the same size external size as a Presto valve, but the inside, the bore is much bigger. You could put sealant straight in, it won't clog. You could pump up your tyres easily. It's just a better system than what we currently have, which basically hasn't changed from the very beginning. And as you know, there's loads of issues with Presto valves clogging up with tubeless sealant, which is ironic considering a lot of the brands that are making them are for tubeless conversion kits. So this is really cool from Reserve, like Santa Cruz Reserve. They're called Fillmore valves. Now, they're bigger bore, right? You're going to see some images on screen that sort of demonstrate what's going on here. They've got a non-removable core, but they use a poppet design. So the core itself essentially pushes down, opening it and opening at the bottom. So if that was to clog, you unclog it just by opening it. So that's a great idea because it's not going to clog. Internally, the bore is much bigger. You get, I think they say 3 times more airflow, and they also say tubeless canisters and dedicated pumps are not needed. That's going to please a lot of people, surely. The tyre ends are compatible, and also they have a cool micro adjust system for adjusting the air pressure. So you think on a Presto valve, you've got to take off the valve cap, then you've got to unscrew the actual valve, adjust your pressure, screw it back down again, put the valve cap back on. On these, you literally just twist the valve cap, push it down, twist it back on again. Brilliant. So you can do it with like muddy, clumsy hands. You're not going to interfere with the internals of that valve. It looks like it's super easy to adjust. I mean, I've not seen them in the flesh, but these look brilliant to me. Really want to see them in the flesh. So what's going to be really interesting is to see where all the other brands that make similar sort of valves, I guess, are you going to adopt different styles like this? Could this be a new industry standard? I kind of hope so, because, you know, it's one of those things, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But how many times have we talked to you about, you know, unclogging valves? You even get brands that make products, like Muckle make products, specifically to unclog the sealant from valves, and it does work really well. But imagine if they didn't clog up in the first place. One of the ironies here to think about is that internal space that you have behind the, I don't know, let's call it the bore of the regular Presta bit that goes on the inside there, like your valve stem. The irony is the hole is the same size as what most tyre sealants is designed to seal up. So it's kind of inevitable that you're going to clog up from time to time. I mean, I've never had that much of an issue because I keep stuff clean, but I can see how it is a problem that's being addressed. So I think this is awesome. What a cool product. Nice one. Next up, another cool product. For 2 reasons. Dynaplug, they make really cool plugs to seal your holes in your tyres when you're riding, and Chris King makes super cool stuff. So here you've got a collab. Amazing stuff. So if you have Chris King anything, or actually if you probably, arguably this could be the cheapest Chris King product you could buy. $52 it'll cost you, weighs 26 grams, got the Chris King sleeve in turquoise in the middle with the Angry Bee on there. Of course the Angry Bee is the noise the rear hub makes. And they've got plugs available with them. They just look really nice bit of kit, and a bit different to many others available. It's nice being made from CNC aluminium and steel. Lovely bit of kit that. Now, here's something that's not so cheap. Pair of POC glasses, but look at these things. So these are called the Illicit. Now these, I think they're probably one of the lightest feeling glasses around. I'm just going to throw that out there because they weigh 23 grams. It's basically a lens and some ear stems on them. And they look really cool. They look really futuristic. In the images I've seen, they're more focused around road riding, but I'm going to get a pair of these. They look great. They've got snap hinges. Something that's really good for people like me with big old noses on them is they come with 2 sets of nose pieces, one for a regular size nose and one for a big old hooter like mine. So awesome stuff. Like I said, they weigh 23 grams. The temples break away in a crash, so therefore you're not going to actually snap them or damage them, or if you do, it's pretty unlikely. Come with 2 lenses. They come with a clarity lens, and I don't know if it comes with a clear or another colour lens, but you've got an option there. They're UV 400 protective. They've got the repel coating, which means dirt, grease, stuff like that. It's not really going to stick to them that much. That clarity lens, in case you're wondering, the best way to describe it is it almost sharpens your vision slightly. It makes your vision look a bit more HD. Anyone who's used them will probably be able to confirm that with me. But it saturates greens and browns. So what I've noticed is when you're using them in the woods, sometimes they're actually better in the woods than a clear lens would be. So if you've got like dappled light and you've got lots of shadow and little sort of pockets and stuff, it basically means you can see, it brings out the highlights a little bit. So a strange effect, but works really well. I use that lens probably more than I do, probably use about 2/3 of the year. Darkest of winter, obviously I switched to a clear lens, but it's a really good lens that. Loads of cool colours, $250 though. Pretty expensive, but I guess reflective of where Oakley are and all the other brands offering top stuff, and their stuff is really, really cool. I think they look mega space age looking. And yeah, well, another cool set of glasses from POC. Good stuff. Last thing in news, it's just a cool bike I want to talk about. Brandon Semenuk posted these shots of his latest Trek. Oh man, it's really nice. So he's got a single crown zeb on there. He's got his front brake routed through the steerer tube and popping out the bottom. You can probably see that in one of these shots. Long rear brake there, so you can do bar spins and tail whips and all that stuff. SRAM access, so he doesn't have any additional hoses, can still have brakes there. Gears even running and dropper post running without any sort of additional cables and hoses getting in the way. And the pace note graphics. So you might be aware he does a lot of rally driving, and he's about as serious as you get as well. So he's, he's up there. He's trying to be in the same sort of realm as the Travis Pastranas, doing multi-sports, but a really high level. There's loads of cool footage of him racing. I think he's got like a Subaru, hasn't he? Been racing. But the pace note graphics, mega cool, aren't they? What do you reckon? Another cool bike, needless bike? I think it's rad. Okay, quiz time now. 3 questions coming at you on the screen. You know the drill, no cheating. This has got to be off the top of your head. So, first question. Name 2 bike companies I've referenced on today's show so far that are from Switzerland. Next question. Brandon Semenuk has been doing loads of rally driving and racing outside of mountain biking, like the other thing he's very clearly really good at and really into. But there's also been another very, very successful mountain bike racer who's a bit of a whiz when it comes to rally driving. Any idea who that was? And the last one, why is this such a good tool for a mountain biker to have? Pick up the questions a bit later. Okay, seeing as we're sat in my bike cave this week, I just wanted to talk to you about a few sort of bargain things that I've acquired and just ways you can save a bit of cash in your bike caves at home and just make them work for you. I've been doing a lot of stuff to the one at work, and actually it's making all the other presenters start realising they want to change their sets a bit. So I think it's kind of cool. So recently, for example, right, I got myself a new Vice. The old one was absolutely knackered. I've had it a long time. And it just was past the point of coming back, and it was also massive. It was a 6-inch Vice. I've only ever needed a 4 or a 5, and I actually wanted to buy an Irwin, but I couldn't find one for love nor money at the time of buying that was in stock I could get. So I tried one of these. This is a brand called Minotaur. Never heard of them. They're just like an own brand by Tool Station. I got this one from. 35 quid, 4-inch Vice. It's got a super smooth action on it. It's a swivel mount, which I love. And also it's got a massive anvil on the back. Now I don't really use the anvil for much stuff bike related, but I love my Magnetics parts tray, and that sits on there. It's a great bit of kit. It's really it's no frills, but the action of the jaw, it's very accurate and it's very smooth, and that's exactly what you need working on bike stuff. In particular, things like pushing out shock bushings. It's got to be a really smooth, precise action. And yeah, I mean, 35 quid for Vice does what I want. All right, it's bright red. I'd rather it was blue, to be honest, but I'll live with that. And I think it's a good addition to a bike cave. And it proves the point you don't need to spend that much money to get good gear. And another addition to that will be these. These are magnetic soft jaws. Now, anyone that's got a Vice, you should have a set of soft jaws for certain jobs, gripping on bikes and stuff. So you could be grabbing things like steerer tubes, even brake levers and things. These ones are made by Silverline. They cost me about 6 quid for the pair. Magnetic, and they've got a nice rubber edging on them. Like, they're a bargain. This is a 4-inch size, but there's 5s and 6s as well, depending on what size Vice you got. It's a dead simple bit of kit. There's loads of different brands offering these, and probably cheaper ones as well available to you. And once you've got a set, you never need to get another set. They just kind of last. What else? Hooks. My workshop, my bike cave is tiny, and I've got stuff everywhere in it, and I'm relying on these hooks. I get these multi-packs of hooks from Amazon. They cost, I can't remember how much they cost. It's something like 15 quid and you get about 20 hooks of varying sizes, from helmet size hooks to ones you can put wheels and stuff on. Even ones like I've got Dustin's bike hanging up on a hook over there. Like, they're really, really good. You can get color coordinated ones. So I've got a set of these gray ones for work as well. So they're blended on a set. You can get orange ones. I think GCN have got. They're dead cheap. Doesn't have to cost the world. You know, you can get some specialist hooks for bikes and they can be a lot more expensive, but you look around and you can get some good cheap ones. Just make sure when you buy hooks for home, you get ones that have got like a rubber coating on them. Like I say, look after your bikes. You know, you don't want to wear anything away, but they're great. The table that I've got my laptop sat on right now, it's a Park mobile workbench. Now this is brilliant. If you don't have anywhere to work on a bike, get yourself something like this. These things are really, really good. They've got multi-use. You can put a keyboard on it. You can do your work on there. You can use it as a work stand. You can do many other things. You can use it with barbecues on in the garden. Like, it's just a useful thing to have. So if you're living in a flat or you're living somewhere where you don't have the space to have a bike cave, or even if you've got a shed that's big enough to put your bikes in but it's not big enough to work on them, you can put it outside, get your work stand out there, and you can have all your tools and stuff in it. You're not going to lose anything. It's a really good, simple piece of kit. Like I said, you know, if you don't have a bike cave, stuff like this can be a godsend. You can have a work box, you know, with all your tools in there. You can have your work stand, and you can have your mobile workbench. And you've got a setup then that can go with you. So again, another great setup if you've got a big camper van. Very portable, very mobile, and enables you to get really good jobs done. Virtually anything you can do, you just can't mount a vice to one. That's the only thing, really. But great stuff. Workshop spec pots of grease, like this and like this, for example. So bike grease costs quite a lot of money when you buy it, and it's an essential. You definitely need to get stuff. If you're working on your bike a lot, if you do the math, you might look at something like this. So this one's just a suspension grease. Now, traditionally, I would use things like SRAM butter. Now, this is brilliant stuff. Nothing against it, but you get a little pot and you see I've got almost nothing left in there. I go through this stuff quite a lot. I do a lot of videos with suspension forks and things. So now I just got myself a big tub of this. And actually the price difference is probably only twice the price, and look how much more you get. It's gonna last you a lot longer. A lot of people see that size tub and think, I just don't need that. But actually, in the long run, it's gonna save you money. It's not gonna go off, is it? Really good stuff. You can do the same with brake fluid. Like, I've got bikes that have got dot fluid brakes on, like SRAM brakes. I've also got bikes that have got Shimano on. Dot, I'll only ever get a small pot and you use it when you do, because it ingests moisture. But Shimano and other mineral oils don't. So get yourself a workshop size one. Cost for cost is way more efficient. And the same can be said for tubular sealant. You can get tubular sealant in bigger value containers. You're buying more and it costs you more to buy, but you get more uses per cost. It's just the same when you buy anything in bulk. You could buy big bags of rice at the supermarkets and that, and pound for pound against the small ones that you're more likely to buy to fit in your cupboards, they're so much cheaper. So just consider this when you're buying things for your workshop. You know, am I going to use grease on more than this bike? Yeah, you probably are. You can use grease for a long time. Get yourself a workshop spec one. Great stuff. Homemade hand cleaner. This is a great way to save a bit of cash. I've done this one a long time ago. I need to do a fresh one. All that's in here is granulated sugar, honey, and a bit of olive oil. Pretty simple. The quantities, I seem to remember, half a cup of olive oil, fill this up basically with sugar and 2 tablespoons of honey in there. Now the sugar, in fact, actually I'm told that brown sugar is even better for this. And the coarser it is, the better. It really gets everything out of your hand, and honey pulls the stuff away, but olive oil leaves your hands moisturised afterwards. It's brilliant stuff. And more than likely, you've got those ingredients in your cupboard already. So if you get an old jar like that, you've got free hand cleaner. Brilliant stuff. Don't use the super expensive honey like I did from the cupboard and get in trouble though, like I did last time with that one. But hey, that's probably like 2 years old, 3 years old, still going. Brilliant stuff. Free, like I said. Shoe dryers. I always talk about this one. Old pair of socks, get yourself some Silka gel beads. You see them in fish tanks and stuff like that. You can order them online, you know, Amazon, eBay, any old online place will sell the stuff, get it in a bag, fill up the socks, tie a knot in them, and you've got something to dry your riding shoes with. So when you come in from riding and they're wet, take out the insoles, put those in. it pulls out the moisture really, really quick, and you can dry them on your radiator afterwards and they're fresh to use again. And they just help your riding shoes avoid that dreaded, damp, horrible smell that you get. Also, in addition to that, you should probably use an antibacterial spray just to kill the bacteria that's going to get the funk. But yeah, another way of doing it. And also, last one, I can't bother to get it out and show you, but I've got a big roll of Shift outer casing there, outer casing, even if I speak in English there. Same thing, I'm always here and there going to be chopping and changing cables and housings on bikes. When you buy them one kit for your bike, it works out fairly expensive. You won't see that at the time because you'll get 2 inner cables, you'll get the ferrules, you'll get all the kit you need to do your bike. And if you don't work on a bike that often, that's fine. If you're like me, you're working across multiple bikes quite a lot of the time, again, a roll like that will last you years. And it's good value and you've always got it in stock. I kind of like to have things in stock so I'm ready to work on stuff when I need to. You know, I don't have to think, oh man, I need to order that before I can do that, so I just put it off and forget about it and the bike gets worse. I just have an amount of stuff like in my MTB larder. But there you go, just a few sort of cool things that I think can help you save money without having to go to whole hog and do the more expensive options. If you've got any cool sort of like a workshop money saving tips, I'd love to know them, because I think we should make a video, like a dedicated video on how to do this stuff and save the money, where to buy it, what to look for, what to avoid more importantly, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there that's very easy to buy and realise it's not very good. There you go, get involved in the comments underneath. Okay, time for quiz answers then. How did you get on with these? Right, first question. Name 2 bike companies that I've referenced in this show that are from Switzerland. Come on, you must have got this. Scott Bikes. I mean, some people have been confused because Scott Bikes used to be known as Scott USA, but Scott Bikes are located and they are a Swiss brand. And also Bold Cycles, which are now part of the Scott sort of family, which is a great collaboration. The way they design stuff, it just works perfectly together. Really exciting. I'm really excited actually to see what comes next from Scott. Brandon Semenuk has been doing a lot of rally driving outside of mountain biking recently. There was another very successful mountain bike racer who turned his hand at rally driving for a while. Who was that? You get it? Nicolas Rouleau, 10 times world champion. Yeah, like, you know, one of the greatest racers of all time ever. Turned out he's pretty flipping good in a rally car as well. In fact, he's pretty flipping good at most things. He's one of those annoying people that can just do everything. And he's a really nice guy as well. You can't even not like the guy. Super cool. And the last one. Why is this so useful for a mountain biker? It's a digital tyre pressure gauge. I mean, the fact it's digital doesn't matter that much, but it's a tyre pressure gauge. It opens the world to free traction. There's far too many people that don't experiment with tyre pressure, and you're losing out on free traction. You know, once you've got a gauge, you've got free air pressure to play with there. A lot of people are picky about air pressure and will know where to go to, and some people never check. They pump it up, give it a feel, yeah, it feels about right, but you'd be amazed what difference a pound in pressure can make to the traction and just the overall feel of your bike. I promise you, if you get some sort of tyre gauge and you go out on one of your local trails and you just spend like a day experimenting, you can eke more performance out of your bike. You can make it feel like it rolls faster, you can get more grip, you get more confidence. And to a degree, you can make things work better as well. There's nothing to not like about one of these, and they're far more accurate than the gauges that you get on pumps. In fact, a cool little tip is if you get one of these, always use this to refer to your tyre pressure, because you'll find if you take a tyre pressure reading from your floor standing pump, your mini pump, and this, they'll all be different. But these, they only have one job to do. That is what they do best. They're very accurate. So get yourself a tyre pressure gauge and experiment. Free traction. And there we go, that's the end of this week's show. I thought it was a pretty good show actually, quite enjoyed it. It's quite nice being at home. I'm filming this because I'm going away on Monday, so I'm gonna have a good time. Hopefully you enjoy the show. Let us know what you think in the comments as always, and we'll see you next time. See you later.